Opening a premium hotel from scratch requires coordinating millions of dollars in physical materials, hundreds of contractors, and ultimately thousands of employees. This monumental logistical coordination is governed by a single comprehensive document known as the Master Pre-Opening Timeline, or MPO-T. It acts as the central nervous system for the entire project. When you look at a construction site on day one, it's easy to assume the project schedule naturally marches forward from that moment. But the reality of hotel development works in reverse. The entire architectural and operational schedule is anchored strictly to a single target at the very end of the process. That target is the hotel opening date, and it is a completely immutable mark. Because that date cannot move, it dictates the exact timing for thousands of tasks. Everything must be calculated backward from the moment that final point locks. The resulting timeline spans 12 to 18 months, beginning well before the first room is finished. This structural reality means human resources milestones are not created independently by an HR director. They are strictly governed by this overarching project clock. Finance, construction, marketing, and HR must all map their internal goals directly to this single track. Pre-opening logistics is a process of reverse engineering. The finish line determines exactly when you are allowed to leave the starting block. To determine when hiring must begin, the general manager and pre-opening team start at day 0 and map backward, populating a detailed Gantt chart. The first major milestone hits the HR swim lane exactly 12 months out. Executive team hiring. You need department heads in place a full year before opening, so they can assist the general manager in defining the specific workplace culture for the property. They also require this lead time to prepare and finalize the individual operating budgets for their respective departments before a single frontline employee is hired. Moving closer to opening, we hit the next major logistical requirement, the mass hiring event. This cluster is locked in at -60 days. That 60-day window is mathematically rigid. It cannot be compressed because it splits into two distinct consecutive requirements. The first 30-day block is dedicated entirely to administrative processing and system onboarding for hundreds of new employees. The final 30 days are consumed entirely by mandatory service and brand standard training. Shrinking either of these windows results in staff hitting the floor on opening day before they actually understand how to execute the brand standards. Without adhering to this strict backward schedule, delivering a fully trained staff by opening day is mathematically impossible. But plotting dates on a calendar assumes those dates exist in a vacuum. HR faces a critical external constraint, the physical environment itself. This introduces a unique dependency known as phased handover. This is the staggered transfer of finished physical territory from construction to operations. You cannot train hundreds of employees in an active construction zone. HR physically requires finished space to process paperwork, conduct interviews, and run training sessions. This means there is a critical window on the Gantt chart where physical spaces cross over into operational control, typically between 4 and 6 months prior to opening. In Phase 1 of handover, the construction team must deliver the administrative offices and training rooms. These specific rooms are the highest priority for early delivery because they serve as the operational beachhead for the entire pre-opening team. They are immediately required to facilitate executive onboarding, allow IT to install networking systems, and host those critical initial training sessions. If the administrative office handover is delayed by even a few weeks, the entire hiring and training schedule collapses. Without the physical space to operate, the timeline bottlenecks, forcing unprepared staff onto the floor and severely compromising the hotel's opening. Pre-opening HR is a spatial and construction-dependent discipline. The personnel management cannot begin until the concrete is poured and the desks are wired. Because these dependencies are so tightly wound, the primary defensive task for the general manager and HR leader is actively auditing the MPO-T. They look for critical path delays, isolated failures threatening the operational ecosystem. Take a delayed HRIS delivery. It immediately blocks setting up payroll. This structural roadblock means you cannot generate employee files, which blocks all mass training, triggering a total downstream cascade failure. The real-world impact is severe. You cannot train staff on software that doesn't exist, and you cannot hire them if you cannot run payroll.
Tracking these interconnected dependencies requires constant vigilance from the pre-opening leadership team to spot bottlenecks before they calcify. Auditing the critical path means mapping the blast radius of a single delayed task long before it detonates the timeline. When we pull back from those isolated failures, we see the interconnected reality of a healthy, functioning pre-opening project. Large-scale operations courses in European strategic leadership programs drill this specific concept into future general managers for a distinct reason. Rigorous cross-functional auditing is the only proven method to protect the immutable opening date.
HR tasks must remain seamlessly integrated with construction phases and IT infrastructure at all times. They can never operate in a silo. The master pre-opening timeline is the strategic leader's definitive roadmap, dictating the cadence of every HR activity from hiring to training. The ultimate goal of this logistical exercise is to achieve full commercial viability the moment the doors unlock. Operational viability means arriving at day one with a fully trained, culturally aligned, and system-integrated staff ready to serve guests. Respecting and auditing the MPO-T is the singular process that translates an empty architectural shell into a living, functioning hotel, exactly on time.